Yeah, no. Morning Joe effed up very bad because they brought in this Danny Cevallos, who is a legal analyst for MSNBC. And let's just say it did not go the way that they thought it was going to go when he speaks about due process in America. Especially, how they're trying to argue that people that just came into the country and been here for less than 2 years and were not vetted coming in deserve due process. Just like they tried to go back to El Salvador for, the Maryland dad story ended up being a wife beater and all this crazy nonsense. But yeah, so Morning Joe loses his mind, and Al Sharpton is there as well. So Joe Mika, Al Sharpton, and the rest of the panel are about to be shocked because this guy, who is Hispanic, by the way, and is a legal analyst, is about to burst their bubble that they've been living in, that we should allow people that just came here due process. What? Take a listen. Come on.
If the Trump administration does it.
Well, the short answer, back then, we're talking about immigration law. The Alien Enemy Act is actually not part of immigration
So
law.
we have three things. And as we said, excuse me for interrupting, but we have the Alien Alien Enemy Act.
It's already starting. He's trying to frame this up to be where the legal analyst agrees with the panel,
which the South Texas judges said is illegal. We have what's happened in Venezuela, but then we have general deportation. That's what I'm talking about right here.
Yep. So federal law allows for even broader and speedy removal than has been used in the past. And expedited removal, as you talked about, allows for summary removal. That means no entitlement even to a hearing, possibly within 24 hours. It hasn't been used as broadly as, say, the Trump administration might want to use it. But under the statute, it is permissible to remove aliens who arrive at the border and even those who have been here for 2 years, although that 2-year provision you talked about is the lesser used in practice. But just
look at him getting uncomfortable there. Good morning, Joe. Getting so uncomfortable. Look at Mika. Her back is so straight, man. They're like, uh-oh, this guy is not giving us exactly what we got him here for.
Because it isn't used very often doesn't mean it's not a part of federal law that can be used. And it will be used because it's permitted under federal law. So the Congress, in its infinite wisdom, decided that aliens who arrive at the border, and they define people who arrive at the border as people who have even been here 2 years, if they have fraudulent documents, if they don't have sufficient documents, they can be removed in an expedited fashion unless they seek asylum. So you don't run into those due process concerns, at least presumably because that statute, as it exists today, is still valid. Now, that's not what's at stake with the Venezuelans and the Alien Enemies Act. But the government's argument is that, hey, court, listen, you're telling us we need to provide notice. Well, take a look at this federal law. It says that we don't even need to have a hearing. It can happen within 24 hours. So if that's good enough for people who arrive here who are aliens, it's certainly okay for people that the president has deemed to be alien enemies.
And of course, that's been the problem a lot.
Yeah. So again, Donald Trump literally outsmarted everybody. Aliens Enemies Act. These people are enemies. Also, they belong to a terrorist organization. Plus, it's already in federal law that these people that came in here, again, this then proves what AOC and most of these new Democrats in the last 5-10 years have been pushing for, which is asylum. That's how gang members got into this country, seeking asylum. That then, again, when you don't even have, when you have a criminal record, from it, basically seeking asylum, it stopped the whole vetting process. So people that would normally get removed through federal law immediately for having a criminal record from another country or having wrong documents, bad documents, or not having any documents at all of their identification, that stopped. People were just getting bussed around to liberal cities after liberal cities because of our sanctuary, which means that, hey, you're seeking asylum, you're illegal, but really you're still illegal. And especially, it's just a crazy broken system that the Democrats, again, try to get you to emotionally attach because you may be a Hispanic person. You may be someone of color in America, whatever the hell that means. I hate saying that, but you may be an American who has those roots and they want to emotionally attach you to their plan. And you see a lot of people come out like, oh, don't celebrate Cinco de Mayo because of what this administration has done to Mexicans or what they, No, look at who's being let in the country and look who's being taken out. Look at the crimes that have happened. Why? What is going on? Why are these people a part of MS-13? Why are these people a part of Tren de Aragua? Have you seen the brothels? Have you seen what's been going on in Queens? Again, only people that live there, in my opinion, really have a valid opinion, for me at least, because they were able to actually see that this is what's going on. Now, you can have an opinion outside of it, but this is what he's explaining to Morning Joe. And this is what these people don't understand. These people don't get it. They don't live in the Bronx. They don't live in these communities that have been bombarded with a whole bunch of people from another nation, a whole like foreign nations. We don't even there's no connection there. Maybe except language, but there's no connection there.
A lot of the problems with the court is they didn't just go the way Barack Obama did. They did Alien Enemies Act. They went back a couple of 100 years for an act that doesn't even apply now because we're not at war with Venezuela, first of all. And then secondly, again, it's one thing to deport somebody back to their home in Honduras. It's quite another to send them to the most heinous prison in El Salvador.
And the president has said again and again in the last couple of days, well, what are we going to do? Have 20 million trials, Danny, for these illegal immigrants? The point you're making is there won't be trials in the sense that we view criminal defense trials. You're going to get the OJ trial 20 million times over if he tries to deport people. So let's take Abrego Garcia, for example. If Garcia comes back to the United States and stands trial or has a hearing, what does that look like as an example of what others might face?
Yeah, Garcia's a little different. He wasn't removed under the Alien Enemy Act because he's not a Venezuelan. And so that whole argument about Venezuela being the enemy or Tren de Aragua being the enemy doesn't apply. But you're absolutely right. If he comes back, what due process is he even entitled to? Well, probably the government will go back to the immigration court and challenge or reopen his case. Because remember, the only thing that kept him here was a withholding of removal order from, I believe, 2019. So they can go back to that court, try to reopen that case and say, hey, since then, he's done some bad things. Now, factually, you can argue, hey, no, he didn't do any of these bad things.
But Danny, even that's just limited to don't send him back to El Salvador. They could deport him to Honduras.
Exactly. You make a really good point, which is, again, everyone's saying, hey, bring him back, give him due process. But that due process may mean he can go to any of the other, 200 or so countries other than El Salvador. And that's why I'm cautioning folks. This whole idea of due process, everyone's saying it, well, this is what they're entitled to, the Supreme Court said. But as a criminal defense attorney, I can tell you that due process sometimes feels a little hollow. Going to your point about habeas, I file habeas petitions all the time. It's a slightly different statute because I'm usually dealing with criminal defendants. These are detainees. But the vast majority of habeas petitions are denied without even an evidentiary hearing.
Oh, my God. This guy is spitting. Actual Americans are being denied that.
In fact, rare is the case where you get an evidentiary hearing. For criminal defense attorneys, any of you watching now, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I got a hearing on my habeas petition, because most of the time
Americans barely even get hearings and barely even get what liberals are arguing, that illegals who came in, again, we don't know them. Like, they coming over here, they're seeking asylum. We don't know who they are. You crazy? You bringing them to your house? Are you dumb? And you want them to get this treatment like, oh, they're my people. Like, what are you talking about?
Time they get tossed. And it makes sense because anyone who knows prisoners or the way they litigate, they file a lot of habeas petitions. And your point is spot on. If there was a hearing for every habeas petition, the courts would shut down.
All right, MSNBC and
Wait, we
NBC.
have to ask you one final question.
Okay. Legal now.
iPhone or BlackBerry?
iPhone or Black?
Yeah, look at that. They're trying to cut to commercial break immediately. Mika wants to leave. She doesn't even want to talk to this guy anymore. She's done with him because he's not reasoning with the reasons that they want him to say. And they then go start goofing off and ask him a stupid question to break the ice on the fact that they're cutting to commercial break. So, yeah, that's the dangerous reality of living in an America where people are fighting more for the rights of individuals who weren't even vetted coming in. This should apply, and I think this applies to mostly every country all around the world. This is the way things are just done. You know, when a liberal, they're like, no one is illegal. Bro, there's borders for a reason. You have to protect people that live in your town. You have to protect your home. There's a reason why there's cameras all around me. In my home, there's a reason why I, would have a gun, would have protection, is because you don't just let anybody into your home. You can't. It's impossible. I don't care if you hate white people and you're just on some like destroy the monarchy and destroy. Look, that's just not the way it's going to work with me. And we saw how dangerous New York City is already versus how it just became more of a, oh, I don't even know what's going on. Look at Chicago. Bro, we got these like already Chicago gangs that exist beefing with other gangs that just came across the border. Like, bro, there's so many things that happen that don't get talked about enough. Why? Because it doesn't benefit the agenda, politics, political agenda of the Democrats is to never talk about what's really going on. Never. Why would they do that? It's not going to benefit them because they'll know that those policies is the reason why people were able to take advantage. It's just that simple. That's the way I look at it. I'm a realist. I look at what's really going on and I say, okay, I always look at a way to fix it. I'm not one of those people that will never talk about not fixing things, but I like to shine the light on things that need to be fixed. And people just act like, well, no, we can't talk about that because that's just going to benefit a party. Nah, man, I'm sorry. That's just not the way it should work. That is not the way things should work.